Today, we're heading on one of my favorite roads in the Struga region. No destination, no schedule, no pressure. I've always believed that some of the best rides aren't about reaching a famous place. They're about everything you experience along the way. And this route is exactly that. As I leave the area around Globochica Dam, the first thing that catches my attention is the silence. The water is completely calm. The mountains surrounding the lake almost look painted onto the horizon. It's one of those views that never gets old, no matter how many times you've seen it before. I stop for a moment and look across the reservoir. It's hard to believe places like this still exist without crowds, traffic, or tourist buses everywhere. Just nature doing its thing. The FC6 fires up and immediately reminds me why I love riding. There's something special about hearing the engine echo through the valley. Not loud, not aggressive. Just enough to remind you that you're alive. The road begins to wind gently through the mountains. Each corner reveals another view, a different angle of the lake, another stretch of forest, another reason to slow down and enjoy the moment. When people think about motorcycle riding, they often imagine speed. But honestly, rides like this have very little to do with speed. Some of the best moments happen when you're riding slowly enough to actually see where you are, to notice the details, the smell of the trees, the fresh mountain air, the small villages hidden between the hills, the sound of water flowing somewhere below the road. These are the things you miss when you're rushing. The scenery becomes even more dramatic. The mountains rise higher around me. The road narrows in places. The villages seem frozen in time. Stone houses, old fences, small gardens. You can almost imagine life here 50 years ago looking exactly the same. And honestly, that's part of the charm. Everything moves slower here. Nobody seems to be in a hurry. Maybe that's something we've forgotten in modern life. We're always chasing the next thing, the next project, the next goal, the next weekend. But roads like this remind you that sometimes it's okay to simply enjoy where you are right now. One corner at a time, 1 kilometer at a time. The further I ride, the more I realize how lucky we are to have roads like this in Macedonia. People travel across Europe searching for hidden motorcycle routes. Meanwhile, some of the best roads are right here, tucked away between mountains and villages that most tourists will never visit. And honestly, I hope they stay that way. Not because I don't want others to enjoy them, but because part of their beauty comes from how untouched they feel. No massive developments, no endless lines of cars, just asphalt stretching through nature. Everything feels peaceful, the kind of place where time doesn't matter much. I stop for a few minutes and take in the surroundings. The mountains tower above the village. The roads disappear into the distance. And for a moment, everything feels incredibly simple. It's funny. We spend so much money trying to relax. Vacations, hotels, resorts. Yet sometimes all you need is a motorcycle and a good road. Nothing clears the mind quite like riding, especially when the scenery looks like this. After a short break, it's time to continue. Now, the route turns back toward Lukovo. The sun is beginning to change position. The shadows are longer, the colors become warmer, and suddenly the entire landscape looks different from what it did earlier. That's another thing I love about riding. The same road can feel completely different depending on the time of day. A corner you've ridden 100 times suddenly looks brand new. A familiar view catches your attention again, and you realize you've never actually stopped appreciating it. The ride toward Lukovo offers some of the most beautiful views of the entire journey. Mountain slopes covered in green, small roads disappearing into the distance, the occasional glimpse of the water far below. Moments like this remind me why motorcycles are different from cars. In a car, you observe the environment. On a motorcycle, you become part of it. You feel the temperature change. You smell the forests. You notice every shift in the wind. Everything feels more real, more connected, more alive. As the kilometers pass beneath the wheels, I find myself doing what most riders do, thinking. Not about work, not about responsibilities, just thinking. Motorcycles have a strange ability to organize your thoughts. Problems seem smaller. Decisions become clearer. Stress slowly disappears. Maybe it's because riding forces you to focus on the present moment. You can't worry about yesterday while approaching a corner. For a little while, all that matters is the road ahead, and maybe that's exactly what we need sometimes. The road eventually leads me closer to Lukovo. The ride is slowly coming to an end, but like most great rides, it feels shorter than it actually was. I enjoyed every kilometer. That's always the sign of a good ride. When you arrive and immediately start thinking about when you'll come back again. Looking around one last time, I take in the mountains, the lake, and the roads that brought me here. Places like Lukovo may not appear in every travel guide, but for riders, they're exactly the kind of places worth discovering. quiet, beautiful, authentic, and perfect for escaping the noise of everyday life. If you've ever ridden through this area, let me know your favorite section of the route in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this ride, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to FC6 Rides, and join me on the next adventure. Until then, ride safe, enjoy the journey, and I'll see you in the next one.